I thought I'd carry on with my informal, one cut, off the top of my head remarks about underwater photography of the year categories. And now we're into the British categories. I think I'll deal with the first two together. The British categories attract far less entries than our international categories. But we in underwater photography of the year feel it's really important that we are promoting British underwater photography in British waters, diving and snorkeling in British waters, exploring British waters, and also the amazing life and wrecks and everything else that you can see in British waters. I think also because the conditions in UK waters are quite challenging for photography. The water can be cold, so it means diving in thick suits, thick gloves. The water can be murky, which can limit photography and puts emphasis on really good technique. I think makes sense to have these as separate categories. Although British pictures are, of course, allowed in any of the international categories, should you wish to enter them there. And people have had plenty of success doing that in the past. The British categories are divided, these first two categories, 9 and 10, are divided into wide angle and macro. And those are those classic definitions of wide angle and macro. We're always happy to have people that stretch the limits. But if you do stretch the limits too far in those definitions, there will be a judge at some point, whether it's me, Martin, or Peter, who will turn around and say, is that really macro? Is that really wide angle? And unfortunately, if we're answering that question no, then it's an easy reason to knock your picture out. But we're always quite happy to see you challenge those limits a little bit if you want to. In terms of the subjects that do well, we really look for pictures that really show the diversity and wonder and the quality of images that can be produced in British waters. So pictures that maybe lack quality are unlikely to do well. Pictures with lots of backscatter, they're unlikely to do well. We want to show good technique. But I think one of the things we've been really encouraged by in the last few years is photographers really trying to push the limits in terms of creativity. I think we felt a few years ago that British macro in particular was a lot of matter-of-fact standard ID style shooting and portraits and that sort of thing. And I think one thing we were really encouraged by, particularly last year and a little bit the year before, is a real transition into some really creative macro pictures. Now, in either category, we're not going to award all 10 pictures the same. So if if everyone's entering super wacky creative stuff, only a few of them are going to get rewarded. And I'd also add to that in a place like the UK where there is less diversity of subject matter than in the tropics, and it's a small island after all as well, so there's not endless things to shoot. Photos of the same subjects are going to be played off against each other. We're not going to have a top 10 in wide angle that's all seals or all blue sharks or whatever other subjects you're shooting, or all wrecks in freshwater quarries. We're going to play those subjects off against each other. So if you enter a blue shark picture, it's going to have to compete with other blue sharks to get in the top 10. If there's 2 or 3 amazing ones, there might be 2 or 3 in the top 10. These rules are always there for us as the judges to be broken, but hopefully this gives you a little bit of insight. So when you are entering common subjects, be aware they've probably got more competition than subjects that we are not so used to seeing. And if you certainly found something unusual and rare this year, then it's always worth trying it out. We've certainly had, orcas winning before. We had the lovely red blenny last year being commended. So pictures of great subjects we've not seen before are also things that we're always really, really excited to see.